Good afternoon. It is May 20th, 2024. You're listening to a Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Leminos and hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? I have some bad news. Yesterday, we had some awesome Game 7s, but that is the last day that we will have 2 basketball games or more on one day. Going forward, East-West, every other day, it's going to be awesome basketball, but it's only going to be one game. If there's a blowout, you're just going to have to wait 24 hours plus till the game the next day. Every time football starts, it goes right into basketball, and then before you know it, like, how did this all happen so fast? And now there's only one game a day.
I have more bad news. I suppose it might be good news for us, but once the Celtics sweep Indiana, there's only going to be one game on every night, and it's going to be every other night.
It's true.
I mean, not just one game a night. It's going to be on every other night. Sorry, I screwed that up. It's my first day.
You're already predicting a sweep? Jumping right into it?
I think as long I'm going to be like that silly parent that just holds their child to a standard that they're never going to reach, but I'm still going to have the standard, even though I know they're never going to reach it. So I'm going to be saying a sweep every time until they reach it, even though I know they're never going to. But I think they can.
It.
But I think they can
hit the goal, and then if you fall short of your goal, you still win in 5, and it's still good.
I think we're going to sweep though. But that's going to be later in the podcast. We have way bigger priorities. There was almost an emergency podcast necessary of last night where I feel like the NBA world has just been shocked by whatever happened last night. Completely surprised of not only the result of Minnesota winning, and actually even less of that, but the way and the fashion that it happened. The comeback, the conclusion, is everybody healthy in all this? Did something wild happen? It's just a complete flip-flop of the first half dominance to a second half dominance of anything you can do, I can do better, and you're going to take this first half off. We're going to turn it on in the second half, and you're going to take the second half off. I watched the second half again today, and I'm still kind of in awe of what happened. I tried to put sense to like what exactly Minnesota did that was so unstoppable, because that's really what happens when you go on like a 30-point swing. It's unstoppable. And all I could come up with was I just felt like they were the more aggressive team, which isn't shocking. I think we've said that before. They are known for their defense. They have shown their defense in this game, and it's not just that. It's the size and physicality of all this. But I thought they were so desperate being down 20 that their defense was just all out. Like, we're fouling like crazy. We're shoving guys. Rudy's pushing everybody. Ant is all over everybody. Like, I just thought they were incredibly aggressive, and it got him back into the game to enough where I thought Denver was then punished for not playing that hard and was never getting any of the calls. If you look at like the drives that Denver had versus the drives that Minnesota had, I just thought there was so much more physicality and begging for calls, forcing calls, and getting called for a whole lot of stuff that the officiating balance was just not there, and Denver was way too soft. We've talked over and over again about these rule changes, but I thought that was really the big difference in all this. Did you see something else? Was it something else more obvious? Because I see people talk about a collapse here, which it kind of is, but it's like, what did Minnesota do that was so right?
I don't even know if it was what Minnesota did so right. Is more, I just thought that Denver just ran out of gas. I think Joker, just he played so many minutes. He barely even sat. He basically played the whole game, and he is not the guy that's designed to be playing the whole game. Josh Hart, I don't think anybody should be playing the full game, but hey, it's Game 7. It's at home, especially the way it went down the stretch. And I don't think he just didn't have the energy that he needed. And I don't think it should be expected. Like I said, he played almost the whole game. And I think that you could see on the offensive end, he wasn't attacking. He was up at the top, and he was taking, I call them the Embiid threes. It's the fourth quarter. You're tired, and you're just hoping. You're throwing a big haymaker, and just like, well, if I could just make this 3, I won't even have to drive. I can just go to the other end of the court. We'll be good. And he wasn't making them. And I think that I'm surprised, but I think the Denver, the guys around the Stars, I think they got nervous. I think Michael Porter Jr. has been floating under the radar for a while now, but they keep winning, so it hasn't come right to the front. But he was the 3rd highest scorer, and he had 7 points. Like, after Murray and Joker, there was no offensive firepower at all. And I think that they got tight, and Joker got tired, and just he couldn't he had pushed it to the max, and there was nothing more. And I think that the Wolves were a little bit deeper, and just like at some crucial points. I mean, Naz Reid just had a absolute stretch where it was like block, save, and one. I think like got like a putback dunk, and it just put him away. Just absolutely put him away. I was very impressed where this was the largest Game 7 halftime deficit, and even when they came out of half, they still went down even some more. So very impressive because you easily could have gotten out of hand for him.
This was a close
Even
game.
more than it was.
I know there was a lead change. There was a 20-point lead given up. This is the third win that Minnesota's had on the road here. Porter ends up with 7 points. Pope ends up with 5. Gordon ends up with 4. That's the rest of your starters. The second half, Jokic goes for 21 points. The rest of the team, I think, only had 11. It might have even been less. It might have been 10. You're just not going to compete in a playoff game doing that. I mean, we talked all the time about how if you don't score at least 100 points in the game, you're in jeopardy to lose. Minnesota this was only 98-90. Like, Minnesota was just in jeopardy of losing this as well. I wouldn't hit the panic button if I'm Denver. There was a ton of things that just went Minnesota's way. I talked about the officiating. There's a Gobert shot, like a fadeaway in the corner. That's just a ridiculous. He's never going to make that again. He's never going to take that shot ever again.
That was the shot, and you see it every once in a while, and it's just you didn't stand a chance. If Gobert is going to hit a turnaround jumper, that I think Shea Serrano tweeted something out about, he threw it up and God just like plucked it out and just dropped it ever so gently into the hoop. Sometimes that happens in sports, and it just really just shows like this was over. Like it wasn't happening. Today was not your day.
The games they won, Naz Reid was really effective on both ends. He was hitting threes, he was getting blocks, going out for rebounds, and they kind of got lucky every game he did it. So like that's another thing that I don't think Denver can really count on that happening again. This was not a good Anthony Edwards game. I know he's out talking trash about the post game and the defense, and he shut down Murray and the handcuffs and all this. He had ridiculously bad turnovers. He had air balls. He was 6 for 24 for the game. If they lose this game, which, like I said, this doesn't feel like it was in jeopardy for them because of it all, but really they could have gotten blown up by 30, and this would have been a completely swap on Edwards. Just not ready, doesn't have it. Cat doing his games over there.
We crowned him too early.
And I'm now second guessing myself because I thought the winner of this series, because I think these are clearly the two best teams in the league, is almost a lock for the championship. And that's against in this next round and in the finals of whoever ends up being either way. I just thought the way Ant didn't really show up last night and the way that Minnesota still won was impressive for how good the Minnesota team is, but it's just not the fashion that I thought. That now I'm almost starting to second guess whether they're gonna beat Dallas, because it's crazy. This team won, but they didn't win good enough for me to be confident in them. Like, that's my problem. That is not their problem. But I'm now concerned because I didn't think Ant would really shrink in the moment like this, and I don't think he's going to be able to get bailed out on just an exhausted team again. I think there's a little bit more depth hopefully in Dallas, but we're going to find that out later. If you're Denver, do you think we got to retool this? Do you think this needs to be improved on, or is this just, hey, we went 7 games, we could have won 7. If some of the other guys show up, if we maybe have any bench at all, we didn't have Bruce Brown this year. I did think Christian Brown was actually the only guy that came in with any energy. I might have played him a little bit more. He didn't look scared out there. But what are the changes? Should we make changes, or is just we run this back and it's a really good chance?
I think you're fine with running most of it back. You have Murray, you have Joker. Those are the main guys. I think if you're looking for that third guy, no one's taking Michael Porter Jr. right now. A max guy that just did not look good in the playoffs. You don't want to sell for pennies on the dollar. You're hoping that he can bounce back. I think Brown is going to be another year older. He's got the playoff experience. He's got championship experience from college, which I count. I think probably more than necessarily than other people. But you got to have just like a little bit more. Even if it's just for the regular season, they had to really push their stars down the stretch and kind of lost that goofy game against the Spurs that was just almost written off. Like, well, the Nuggets will for sure win this, and when you were looking through all the scenarios, and so them losing that, it's just I think they were kind of running on fumes a little bit before they even got to the playoffs. But I don't think you need any crazy changes. I think some small tweaks here or there. I think that's all you need. You're won the championship last year. Only the second round. Definitely a disappointment for what they were hoping for this year. But you go to Game 7, you're up 20 in the second half at your place. Like that, you should have won. It should have been a victory, and if they had won, they would have been favored against Dallas in the next round. So it's almost it's even like worse than it's not even a 50-50 coin flip. You're like when they were up 20. I mean, that was probably like a 90% chance of winning because not only were they up 20 at that time, the Wolves only had about 40 points. It's like, how are they going to make up a 50% difference in their total points here? It didn't seem like it was possible.
Porter only having 7 points and then kind of being a lot better in the previous round. I'm a little concerned. My biggest thing about Denver that I'd be worried about isn't just, Porter not having a great game. It's more of all of the guys on this team that are good and confirmed good, and I'm not saying they're going to be worse next year, but who's going to be better? Like, is Porter actually going to be better next year, or is this what it's going to be? There's going to be some days where he's hot from three and others where he just disappears. I worry about that because a lot of the other teams that have youth, they have guys that are going to develop and actually get better. Like, this is the worst OKC is going to be probably over the next 10 years. Like, that's terrifying to think about, and that's something like these older teams, like Pope isn't going to be better, Gordon's not going to be better, Murray and Jokic I don't think can be any better. So I don't want to force a change, but I just wonder if they're going to be going back next year thinking this is the best punch we can give, and it's just not good enough. Do we have to make a change? I don't want to put it in stone right now that that's what they should be doing, but that's concerning when I could see potential evidence of other teams actually getting better with youth players, and these guys just saying, "Hey, no, we got what we got. This is what it's going to be." I mean, is Minnesota going to be better next year? Like, they're going to be better. Like, I assume Ant will be better.
But will Cat be better?
I don't know. This is.
I don't know. It's because we're pretty far away, but I just wonder, with Michael Porter Jr. He's got some family stuff going on right now, and so I don't know his family. I don't know how close they are, but his one brother's getting kicked out of the league. The other brother, I think there was some sort of legal stuff going on there. So I don't think it could just not impact him at all. I don't think you could just go and oh, this is the reason why next year he's going to be fine. But I think that he can. It's not like he's like an old guy, and you're really oh, you really think he's going to get better? I think that he could still grow, and I think there is also something to having the continuity. This team won a championship last year. Sure, they lost some role players, but the main guys are still there. So you just have to fix the pieces around them, and you should be able. And you play with Joker. He's going to make you better. That's one of the things that he brings to the table that not all the other stars bring. And I think he has to play better. He just has to.
I got some Minnesota takes, but I'm going to save it for later when we do some picks of the next round. For now, let's move on. Anything else for this? Let's move on to Indiana, New York. This is gonna be
I still can't believe that the Timberwolves just a wild series. I think this was the most fun series back and forth. Even though all the games weren't necessarily close, I feel like there's just been a lot of blowouts, but just Minnesota just punches them right in the mouth at their place 2 games in a row. Everyone's kind of writing off Denver. Denver fights back, but then in Game 5, they just didn't even show up. Get beat by 50 points, and for a Game 7 in that game, is a huge deficit comeback. Just a lot of fun, and not how I expected it to go at all from start to finish.
Denver just needs a little bit more toughness out of these guys. They need to find guys to play a little bit more desperate. And I basically would have called Minnesota just the successful cheaters because they just foul, push, grab, pull, whatever, cheat, however you can until you just bully the other team down. I don't think Denver was physical enough with them. I thought Rudy was the dirtiest player in the NBA. I'm giving him that crown. Draymond had it. It is now Rudy. He's all – watch him the whole second half of that. He's grabbing guys left and right. He's pushing everybody – and not just pushing them, nudging them, two-hand pushing guys in the back every time. They only got 5 of them, and he did foul out eventually. But I just can't give credit to a guy that's supposed to be so good at defense. And the thing he's good at is just fouling the other team and only getting called for it half of the time. The Minnesota Cheaters is a new name. Does that sound great? Is that all right with them?
Ooh. Oh man, shots fired.
I did not feel that way. Like, go back and watch this, and I keep saying the rule change and all this. They're allowing guys to be more physical. If Denver comes back next year and plays as physical as Gobert played this series, I think they'll be fine. I think they kept kind of finessing it.
I think the coach said something to him because in the first half, all I was seeing all over Twitter was, "You can't play Rudy Gobert in this game. You got to bench him. Is the coach going to be, strong enough to bench Gobert?" And just, it's like, all right, that's a bold move. If you do that, whether it works or doesn't work, you got to be real confident all the way in. And I think it just went from they started to put him in better situations and not rely on him on offense. I think Coach yelled at him and said, "Hey, don't worry about offense, defense. Start pushing these guys around. They're tired. You're not. Let's go." And I think they got after it. But he had the run in with Murray earlier in this series where he shoved him in the back, made the money sign. So I don't think this was new just yesterday.
That's why I'm giving it to him. He's got the new crown for it all. Like, I hate playing in pickup where a guy's guarding me so tight that he's saying, like, feel free to call anything. It's like, well, feel free to follow the rules, man. Like, I don't enforce the speed limit. Like, why don't you just drive the normal speed limit? Like, why do I have to be the one to flag you down for breaking rules? And that's like what happened all yesterday. So I'm annoyed by that. I don't understand why I have to police you and because you can't control yourself. I'm sorry you're not good enough to defend me and that you have to foul and that now I'm going to be the asshole that has to slow the game down every single time. So, like, this isn't my problem. I don't like
I know that Golden State didn't make the playoffs this year, but Draymond's making his little media tour, so he's still very much in the news. So there's no way that I am taking it away from Draymond at this point and giving it to Gobert, even though Draymond's season's been over for a while. I just found out earlier today that he will be part of the TNT crew for the rest. They're going to be on the Western Conference. So every other night he's going to be around and saying something silly because he doesn't understand how the cap works. But all right, let's get eyeballs on the goofy guy.
You know why he can't have the crown? It has to go to a team that's actually relevant and actually has a chance to win a championship. It can't be to just the guy that makes the most noise, because that's what bad teams do.
How many games was he suspended for this year? Like I said, his season's been over for a while now, and I can see why you want to give it to Gobert, but there's like a lasting, and it's still in my face, so I can't take it away. You can take it for yours, but I'm not taking it away right now from Draymond.
It's funny that he actually, I think, look, he's done a bunch of suspicious things on the floor that make you dislike him, but I think he's saying even more atrocious things off the court that are going to get him into even more, likability questionable situations. Where I guess, do people want to like him? Does he want people to like him? Because it just seems like he pokes at the things that are going to stir up the most attention. Yeah, all right. So that's what it is.
He wants eyeballs. He wants clicks. I get it. I understand how the game is played, but it's very weird to have a current player making comments about guys that are still in the playoffs. He could still be in the playoffs if his team was better, but they weren't this year. And so I get it. You're setting up for your transition. JJ Redick has done it really well, where he kind of did the podcasting and played at the same time. But I don't know. I think he rubs me the wrong way, and so this is just on top of it that now I have to listen to. It's not even listening to him because it's like it all cascades down, and then I have to hear about other people talking about him, or, oh, did you hear what he said about Jason Tatum, or like the problem that the Celtics have, or this and that. It's just, I don't care about this guy that's not in the playoffs. I don't care about his thoughts at all.
Well, I won't say that there's zero chance of this happening. While he's going to irritate all of us, the people in the studio are going to go at him here and there too. All right, Chuck is going to already throw these little jabs of like, hey man, you're not playing right now. Like, you didn't even make it. You're in the playing game. Like, what are we talking about? It's going to come out more, all right? So maybe you could get a little joy into that, because that's going to also be something he can't defend.
Nope. Sure can't. Not this year.
And I use those words specifically. All right, next series. Yeah. Indiana, New York. This happened. This is over. This was a scheduled game. It was supposed to be a Game 7, and one team showed up, and the other team is in the rehab, in a physical therapy
hospital.
A hospital. Look, this is one of those where it's like, all right, well, what went wrong? It's like everything So
Everything.
we
The
have
wheels fell off of this this truck here.
and if you're going into next year, it's like, well, how can we prevent this from happening? It's like, look, if this happened to any other team, none of them would have any of the success they had. As well as, even, I'm going to say this too, strongly, I think every team would have lost to Indiana yesterday. If they shot the way they shot, record-setting percentages, show me the team that was going to win that in Game 7, even if it's at MSG, even if it's in Denver, even if it's in Minnesota, Dallas, OKC, Boston, wherever. Put this game wherever. If you have a team that's going to shoot a super high percentage, be that crazy efficient, you're not going to win. You just have to play better defense.
It was a record percentage, not just for a Game 7, for any playoff game. What was it, 67.1?
It was
on the road.
Unbelievable.
And just, I mean, it made it look more to what I think we're used to in the game we just talked about in Denver, where it was low scoring in that first quarter. And that's normally how the Game 7s go. It's everybody's tight. It takes a while. Where this game, Pacers came out and said, "We're not tight. We're not scared." It was like deep into the second quarter, and the announcers mentioned they've missed 5 shots. Just like how in a basketball game? Like the Knicks are trying, and I get all the injuries and everything, but at that point they still hadn't lost Brunson. OG played a little bit, but he was already out by that point. But yeah, the Pacers just raining fire, and it was almost Game 2 when the Heat beat the Celtics, where at the halftime when I saw what the percentages were, I said, well, they can't shoot that again in the second half. Oh no, it's just like this. The Pacers maybe a little bit worse, but still absolutely on fire all day, everywhere.
I think they would have beat anybody with even the health. I do feel for New York. I do think there's certainly something to be excited about for this season. This isn't the outcome I think they were hoping, but I also don't think it's the outcome they expected either. Like, what were the expectations coming into this year? I mean, I'm sure it was playoffs, but this was a good year. Brunson won some really big games for them this year. OG was a great trade. I think when he was healthy, it looked better than they've ever looked. It was fun. It was cool. I mean, Josh Hart playing 90 minutes every fucking game was nuts. Like, just every second he could possibly play. The effort level's great. The crowd is great. I really enjoy MSG. It was a bummer to not have a entertaining game.
They tried so hard. They were showing, the guys warming up, and you could already hear the loud "Let's go Knicks" chant. Like, it sounded like the game had already started. And then they just get jumped pretty quick. And then it was even in the second half. I think they went down maybe by 20. And then the Knicks scored to get it to 18. And there'd been like a little bit of a lull. And they just like grabbed that opportunity and they tried. They're standing up. They're doing everything. They paid so much money to get to this game to just absolutely get run out of the gym. Have another, Brunson ends up fracturing his hand. By that point, I mean, the game was over anyway. But just really the cherry on top of their crap Sunday of so many starters getting hurt, just all throughout this playoff run. Just I cannot believe how much the wheels just absolutely fell off. And I mentioned this earlier on in the playoffs. It might have been our playoff preview, saying Tibbs plays these guys. This has been an issue before, but I feel like he's reeled it back, and they're not playing crazy minutes during the regular season. None of those guys were in the the top 10 minutes played where you would have thought the Tibbs guys would be. So I think it's a hodgepodge. I think maybe the OG one could have been overused. It's a hamstring, but a fractured hand, that's not from playing so much. In Mitch Robinson, he seems to really to be just looks and on this injury stuff just right with Rob Williams of when he plays, he can impact the game. He's fun. He gets big blocks, but every time he gets a big block and did he land kind of funny there? Is he limping? And just now he's out. Now he's out for months, and it's an ease back in process.
All right, last thing for the Knicks from me here. If Alex Burke played on any other team this weekend, every single one of them would have won. If he was on Denver, they would have won. If he was on Minnesota, they would have won. If he was on OKC, they would have won. I just thought the difference maker this guy made coming in and off the bench, just being cool, calm, collected, just banging some threes, giving him some momentum out of nothing. If he was on any other team this weekend, he would have won. He would have won on Indiana. I thought he had a really good game. I thought Tibbs really could have used him earlier in the series, and we probably still end up the result that we had. But maybe if the guys play Just a little less minutes here. Perhaps we have a little less likely injuries. I mean, it's a lot of what-if possibilities. I just talk about a professional coming in off the bench after not playing a couple games and just giving him buckets. I just wanted to shout that out, and I thought if he was on any other team this weekend, they would have won. Because anyone could have had him. He was available at the trading deadline. It wasn't like an expensive piece.
There was a reason that he was available, though. And I feel like the Knicks gave him all sorts of opportunities down the stretch, and he wasn't playing because he wasn't playing well. But I will tip my cap to him like you are, of saying, hey, you're a professional. Just because you don't play, when your number gets called, be ready to go. And boy, was he ready to go.
Man, he looked great. Really efficient scorer. I looked at the amount of teams. It was like, wow, if OKC just had one of those guys. If they had him instead of Gordon Hayward, who would have known? All right, you got anything else for this series? There's not much else there, right? Just shocking. New York doesn't need to do anything. Don't hit the panic button. Bring everyone back. Make whatever deal you got to do to get Mikal Bridges, and just be happy. This is fun.
Yeah, the New York Villanovas.
I don't know how I'm going to react when that happens. I don't know how I'm going to react when that doesn't work either. And they're like, well, who would have thought a college team just doesn't work in the NBA? It just took we'll just take the exact core of this. It'll work. It's like, I don't know. Will it work? Should it work? I mean, if you took some of these Kentucky teams and put them together, would that work? A Duke team? I
mean, if you got alumni, yes. Singular teams, no way.
But that's what they're trying to do, and it kind of worked this year.
No, because they weren't. They're spread out over a few years.
Over a few championships.
Yeah.
All right, next series, Dallas OKC. Let's talk about it. The series of chances, the series of question marks. I don't entirely understand what Dallas is good at, but I also don't know how you stop it either. Like I can't explain to you what Kyrie and Luka just do. The scoring.
They're just the bucket getters.
It seems like that's too obvious of a way to describe it. It's like, hey, they just have two guys that can score. It's like, I feel like the other teams just have that. Or at least I say that about other teams. But they don't win the games that these guys win. They don't just make something out of nothing. The Kyrie had 2 points in the first half, has 22 in the game. Luka goes 29, 10, and 10. And Lively goes nuts for 15 rebounds. And those were huge rebounds everywhere. Derrick Jones Jr. suddenly just a masterful three-point shooter. Who would have thought that? 4 or 6 in this game. And that doesn't even conclude the P.J. Washington, who's been clutch all game, hitting corner threes everywhere. I can't describe to you what Dallas is good at, but I also don't know how you stop it. That's how I feel about this series, because I thought OKC did a lot of things right. I mean, Shea was good. He kind of got out-dueled by the end, and I don't even think it was his fault. Like, what more was he supposed to do? What went wrong with this game? Is it as simple as something went wrong, or is this just somebody had to win?
I think it was in Dallas, and I think it was more the games before that got away from OKC, and they're just young, and they need like another big or two, and it's kind of funny because one, the Mavericks traded for Daniel Gafford at the break. I definitely didn't think that he was going to be making the impact that he was making on this, as well as at the trade deadline, they technically drafted Lively and then traded him. So here are two guys that you're going against that if the team you're going against didn't have them, you would have had a much better chance to win. Oops. And I get it though. They have to. They have so many young guys. They have so many picks. They have to trade just to. There's only so many guys you can have on a basketball team. But I've been very impressed with the way that Lively's played. I mean, both Lively and Chet, both being rookies, playing this well in the playoffs. You don't see that very often.
OKC was out rebounded 31-47. It's not great. Plenty of misses out there. Plenty of long shots of Luka just chucking it up, and the Kyrie stuff is still amazing to me. You have to watch it. The numbers don't say it. The numbers don't even sell it at all. The push shots, the quick little jumpers, and the way that this team is just able to jump on you when you're not expecting it, it's killers. They're killers out there. I don't think OKC needs to overthink anything over the offseason. I think if they had grabbed a couple more rebounds, I guess we could talk about the last play. I thought it was easily a foul on Shea on the corner attempt by P.J. Washington at the end of the last game.
I think it's more though. Like you can't let it get down to this point where it's on that kind of play. What were they up? They were up 20 in the second half.
I mean, they were in
And
control. They had control
it
of this.
like for sure it was in Dallas, but I think that's just what part of the intangibles that Kyrie and Luka bring is that they just have this. I want to call it irrational confidence, but it's not irrational. Of just I've been in this situation before. We're gonna be good. Like we're gonna be fine, and we're gonna make this work. And not only having that confidence in yourself, but being able to make the rest of the team believe it. And I think that Chet is just not all the way filled out the way that I think he's going to be. And I think that he's able to sustain it for a half, maybe even 3/4. But then towards the end, it's just you get worn down, and you're trying to go against Lively, who like it's not like he's Shaq in his prime or anything, but just a little bit bigger, a little just, but also just as athletic.
OKC will be better next year with no changes at all, right? Like, can I just say that? Is that safe?
I don't think so.
You don't think they'll be better next year with no? They have to make changes
No.
to be better. This is the peak. Jalen Williams won't be better. Chet won't be better next year. Shea won't be better next year.
I think somebody has to zag in this situation, and I would normally it's just like, oh yeah, look, you got all these young guys, and I just know that the trajectory is never linear. I think it's very clear that Shea is the guy. He could be the number one guy. That's not a problem. I think all of the younger guys, but I think that you came in, you were the 1 seed. I just think that next year there's going to be, I don't know exactly, like a reshuffling or just guys still like trying to figure themselves out. And I think that like some guys will improve and other guys are just they're just not. Not that they're not going to be good players or that in a following year, but just I feel like we've seen this with with the Celtics where these guys were young. It's like, oh well, next year, like all the same guys, everyone just gets a little bit better, and we're going to be a lot better. And it's just like, well, some guys get better, and some guys regress. One guy gets hurt, something here or there. So I am just, I think it's kind of a cop out. They were the number 1 seed. I'm saying they're going to be worse. So I'm saying that they're not going to be the number 1 seed in an absolute loaded West.
Yeah, that's actually not as safe as bet as you would think. I mean, like you said, there was only a couple games apart between 1 and 7. Like it wasn't that many games. So this could easily swing a different direction. The Giddey piece, I think, is the one you want to move, but I also would like to point out that when Shea missed time this year, that was an excellent bailout for them. It's too bad those two do not play well together because that would be great for their size, but it's just not enough shooting with both of them trying to drive and be mid-range kind of threats more often. So I think you move that one. I'm not saying Giddey's done and that he isn't going to be good somewhere else. I think you put him in the right situation, he'll be pretty good. I just don't think he's going to have to get a lot better at his jump shooting regardless. But if he wants to stay on this team, he's going to have to be a way better shooter. Like just a way better shooter. He has to be a threat out there, and he just wasn't this series. It got worse. But I think throughout the regular season, though, I still saw a lot of nice things with him. He can still run an offense. He ran this offense. He ran this offense during some of the games, and they got the number 1 seed in the league. So that's pretty good. Or at least in the West. Sorry.
Do you know who's definitely going to be gone from this team next year?
Gordon Hayward. Yeah.
Gordon Hayward. He is definitely going to be gone. That did not work out at all. I thought that was going to be a much more impactful move at the deadline. As I was saying, hey, he's got the experience. Clearly, he's not in his prime anymore, but he didn't move the needle at all. And then afterwards, it seemed like he wasn't even having a good time. And so I wonder, I don't think that really impacted things that much. I'm sure he was a professional in the locker room, but I mean, it's never great if there's a guy there that isn't enjoying his role.
He is the old guy in the team, though. And who is he supposed to play over? Would you have played him over like Isaiah?
No.
I wouldn't. Like I thought everyone else played well. It wasn't like I can't believe this guy's in here, and you got Gordon rotting on the bench over there. Like, can we put him in? I didn't get that feeling at all. If anything, when he was in there, I was like, oh, let's see if he's got it today. And he'd come in. He felt very passive, which I don't know if that was trying to get more playing time by being passive, or if he was better off coming in and just being a ball hog of like, oh, it's an offense. Like, I just didn't see a spark out of him at all. Like, what were they hoping? What was he hoping to do? Because he didn't do it.
Well, he was traded there. It wasn't, necessarily his decision. So, but the comments coming out, I was just pretty surprised, and it sure sounds like he thinks he can still have like a significant role somewhere, but mid-30s, I just don't know who's picking up that phone after you just came from Charlotte, where if you wanted to show, you could still put put the ball in the hoop. There was ample opportunities for that. There was no expectations there. So yeah, that was a big swing and a miss, I guess, by OKC and by me thinking that was going to have a real impact on this team.
I mean, Giddey got benched. He lost a ton of minutes. Is that what he's mad about? That like one of the starters for most of the year isn't playing, and I'm not even getting those minutes? I just don't know what minutes he was hoping to get. Also, don't go sign in Charlotte and then you can't get traded again. Go sign somewhere else. You took the money over there. I know the injuries and all that aside, but you took the contract. This is how you ended up here. This is how you end up in your situation of your career. He made the decisions of all this, right? Nobody's done anything to him.
No, he got paid. He got paid his money. I don't think he's going to be making $30+ million per year on his next contract, but what do I know?
The what ifs of this series for OKC aren't what if Gordon Hayward was good again? Like I don't think that's that's not the storyline we're all missing.
No. Yeah, to the point, like I kind of forgot that he was on the team.
There were a couple times he was in there. I was like, wait, who's the white guy in there? What is that? It's like, oh, it's Gordon Hayward.
Oh, right, yeah.
All right, next series, we can wrap this up. Boston already cleaned up Cleveland. Nothing to really talk about there. I'd rather get more into Boston's going to be playing tomorrow, Tuesday night. It'll be Indiana at Boston. The efficient, high-scoring, doesn't-miss team of Indiana. I think these are the two most efficient offenses in the league this year, Indiana and Boston. I got them in 4. They don't play defense. And if we just play defense, I think we could take Halliburton out of this game. And Nesmith hates us, and he's going to kill us. C.J. McConnell is going to be the biggest enemy.
Do you think Nesmith hates us?
Well, I think he plays well against us. I'm saying like he's gonna bring it.
Okay,
right?
That's fair.
I'm saying he's gonna be
because I don't feel like we did anything. It's just like, hey man, you were a young dude. Like you never would have gotten. I think we've talked about this and agreed upon this like so many times already that there was no spot for you. Even when you see him now, it's like okay, you bring him on the team. I mean, like he's good. There'll be some spots, but you're gonna get stuck on the bench. Like you're better off in Indy.
I think he's a hyper-competitive person who's going to take it out on us more than anyone else. There's not any bad blood. It's just that if I'm going to prove any team that I'm worth something, I'm going to prove Boston. And he's done that.
Does he have any magic left in that tank? Because he's the one that won that Knicks series. That deep step back, panic, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to throw it up at the hoop in game 3 that gave them the lead. If the Knicks win that, they're up 3-0. That series is over. So I don't know if he's got any magic left.
I think he's going to frustrate us.
Halliburton was good yesterday on the road, but in the other games and when they lost, he not only did he not look good, he looked like not confident. There were some losses that he only took 7 shots. Boston is not going to be this nice quiet place. I think we compare awfully well to what the Knicks fans are going to be doing. So if this is if you're not ready for the road, like Boston is not going to be the place that's gonna turn that around.
McConnell is going to give us all nightmares. It's going to be like the smallest version of Giannis you've ever seen. It's just going to be. I can't believe he's doing this.
What are you talking about? We have the perfect guy to guard McConnell.
I'm not worried about guarding him. I'm worried about him guarding us. He's going to take the ball from Jalen at least 3 times a game.
Well, that could be a concern.
This team can score.
I think we don't. I think, like you said, they don't play defense. They don't care to play any defense, and all we have to do, because we are just as high octane of an offense, even without Porzingis, is that we just need to play some defense. And I would just like us to come in, especially in game 1 and 2, and just actually take this team seriously and play them for real. And I don't know if maybe we could play some of the highlights from the in-season tournament where they beat us. And just show hey, pay attention. And in, this game 7 that they just played in, we've been sitting around resting for a while. And, it's the whole rest versus rust of hey, are they banged up from having to play against the Knicks for 7 games? Or are we going to be rusty because we haven't played in a week? But I would like to come out, take them seriously, and, have there be no concern about 67.1% in a game against us.
I mean, we're not going to win that game either. I mean, we're going to shoot 70% if we're going to try and win that game. It's just, I think we're going to take care of business. I think we're going to do it in 4. I think we're going to expose this team. I think they kind of exposed New York a little bit of just being super injured and really running on fumes, and that it's actually kind of a miracle that New York even pushed it, I think, as far as it was. I mean, there was a scenario where they probably could have done this neat and quick, like you said. They win 3-0, and perhaps they could wrap it up in 5, but they just going 7 games was to no advantage to New York at all. Like, at all. It was the worst. Even if they got through this series, crawling into Boston this Tuesday, it would have been hard.
Without Brunson?
Yeah, even if Brunson came back, it was his shooting hand. It's his left hand. It's like, so there really isn't a coming back. I think guys have played with a fracture in their hand on the offhand, and it's not great. It would have been hard.
But, yeah, that's even like big men, not shooters.
No, so that's a tough one. I got Boston in 4. How many games do you realistically think this is going to be?
I'm gonna go Boston in 5. We're gonna do something stupid, and it's gonna drive us all crazy. Or maybe it'll be the Pacers have a game like this, where it's not even a, hey, we really need to lock down and play defense. It's like we are playing defense, and just when you sometimes go against these offenses, it just they don't miss. You just find yourself behind the 8 ball. You can't do anything. So. I'll go 5.
I do think that's the weakness of underestimating Indiana, is that then they just go out and drop 140 points on you. You're like, oh, all right, yeah. So they are capable of something. They could do that. They can't do much else, but they can do that. It's like, oh, all right. Next game, we'll try and stop that a little bit more, because once that gets going, once that train leaves the station and they just start hitting stuff, it doesn't matter.
So I feel very confident when we play the Sixers that Al can contain Embiid as much as you need to contain Embiid and just make him work, and even if he gets his points in the fourth quarter. We didn't play the Raptors nearly as much, but is Al also a Siakam stopper?
No, but Siakam generally stops himself against us. He'll have.
Is that what it is? It's not Al. It's just he does it to himself. Because I like I said, we've played the Sixers a whole bunch. There's a long history there, with this version of the Celtics, and where the Raptors was less. But I seem to remember when we played the Raptors, it was like Siakam. There was like conversations about his career after that.
He's been a little bit better, and perhaps that was Toronto holding him back a little bit, and that this is a little bit more freedom, a little bit less pressure on him. I think he has been probably their best player, even if he isn't their best player, and that's good. I think it's a good situation for him. He's been solid. He was solid yesterday. It was some big shots. He's capable. I mean, he's not the youngest guy or the oldest guy either. There's a good prime. It was a good deal by them. Look at Indiana where they ended up. This isn't the same team that was in the in-season tournament. This is a very different team. I mean, they made the Siakam trade, a deal that they probably would have never gotten.
Yeah, that's why I was just looking it up. It was Siakam for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks. Where 3 first-round picks to go, ooh, that's a lot. But if you're making I guess it matters more how the season ended. But I mean, these are mid to late round first round picks. So 3 of them, they're not lottery picks, or I don't really foresee them being lottery picks. This team seems good enough that, in the coming years, they're going to be in the mix for the playoffs.
I do think this Indiana team is a little bit of fool's gold here, where if they invest heavily into this team thinking, all right, this is the start of our little dynasty here. We made 1 conference finals, invest into all this. This is it. We'll bring it back next year. I am not entirely sold on that. I think the road that they went to get to where they're at right now is, you only face the opponent that's in front of you, and that's no fault of them. But if they assume that that's how every playoffs is going to go, I think there's going to be a rude awakening of how far away this team is, and that's why I'm picking Boston in 4. I just think we're a little bit farther along.
I think we're a lot farther along.
Let's hope so. Let's hope. All right, next game, Dallas, Minnesota, 8:30 on Wednesday. The big man depth both ways. You got Lively, Gafford, P.J. Washington against Gobert, Cat, and Naz Reid. Luka and Kyrie against Ant Edwards and Jaden McDaniels. I think Minnesota's the better team, but there's this Luka and Kyrie. You mentioned the effectiveness of them of just winning games. I think Minnesota was built to beat Denver, but are they built to beat Dallas? Question mark. I mean, what do you think?
I'm gonna go with Dallas. I see all of the good things that happened, but I think that you're right, that Minnesota was more built to beat Denver. And not that they can't beat Dallas, I think it's gonna be a very competitive series. I'm really hoping that it goes 7. But I think that you had some really good Cat games, you had some really good Gobert games, and we've just seen historically that is not what always happens. I think Ant is young enough that we don't really have the track record, and from what we're seeing this year, it's that pretty much every game he's there and he's not scared of the moment or anything like that. But I just wonder if a next series along, you've seen how they played against Denver, and if Dallas and Jason Kidd will cook up some stuff and say, all right, Cat is just asking, he's just asking to get fouls called on him and have to sit, like a college kid, because he's got 3 fouls in the first quarter, and we're gonna lay some bait and we're gonna see if he's gonna go for it, and then all of a sudden, if one of your premier starters is on the bench, now Luka and Kyrie can kind of go to town. So I'll definitely be interested to see that.
I do agree with everything you said. I am hinting and leaning a little bit more towards Dallas. If you're going to talk about inconsistencies and things that might not happen, who's to say PJ Washington isn't supposed to come crashing down after shooting the way he's shooting? Or Derek Jones Jr.
Sure.
isn't supposed to come crashing down. I mean, Derek Jones Jr. has been a legit shooter in this game, and at good size that they're able to play. I mean, we talk about Cat being a good length and the ability to stretch out with the 3. I think Dallas has got a lot of helpful big games out of guys like that, and if they don't get that, they're going to look like Murray and Jokic's last game, where it's just 2 guys scoring 70 points and everyone else getting 10. I could see that scenario happening as well as if Luka's is he healthy? He's not healthy. I don't know how long he can keep doing this. It's amazing that he's still being effective as he is. He doesn't look like he's moving great. Is there any scenario where McDaniels just gives him a couple good jabs here and there and he's out? I worry a little bit about that.
I think he's banged up, but I think by this point in the playoffs, I don't think anybody's 100%. I think most guys are, maybe he's banged up at another level up, but I think you could go through and talk to all of these guys, and there's something nagging them at this point of the year.
I think there's going to be a lot more defense in this series than anyone's expecting, and the Minnesota defense, if just the size that they have out there, I think is hopefully the ideal one to frustrate everyone. I think McDaniels having to guard Luka or Kyrie is fascinating. I'm not saying he'll take anyone out of the game, but if you had to throw a guy at one of those guys, that's the guy. I'm going to go Minnesota in 7 for that. I think they're just going to be exhausting and frustrating. I also just think that the beating Denver, or whatever version of Denver that might have been last night, is still so impressive that I don't think Dallas beating OKC is nearly as impressive. So I'm going with Minnesota in 7. 7 more games. Which one of these teams, if the Celtics are fortunate enough to beat Indiana, would you rather face? Because maybe we should be rooting for a certain team right now.
I think we do better against Dallas.
I think we'll do better against Dallas too.
Luka in the past, kind of tearing out our heart a few times with game winners. I just think there's just been all of this talk. Kyrie every time coming up to Boston seemed kind of absent. So I think he will be ready for it, and I think it's been enough time now that it's a little more fun and a little less mean and negative, but there'll definitely be some of that. And oh man, would Boston be ready for Kyrie to come back for a finals game?
I mean, as scared as Kyrie might be to come back to Boston, I think Luka loves it. I think he's like, this is great. This is the best.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this show. Put me on this stage. Let's do that.
Yeah, where I'm just thinking we have some size. We're especially without Porzingis, we're not incredibly deep, and the Wolves are just, they're bigger. They got more big guys you got to contend with, where Kyrie, is a guard, Luka, more of a forward, but a wing, and we have plenty of guards and wings that we can throw at these guys.
I hope so. That's what I'd rather play Dallas. I just think we're gonna end up with Minnesota, and this is how you're gonna end up. Hopefully, not saying soon, but potentially saying soon. NBA championship, Karl Anthony Towns. Just take it out, just cut it out. Somebody edit this. It might happen. All right, anything else for basketball?
Just want to point out that with the Nuggets losing last night it means that they obviously will not win the championship this year. And with the other teams that are out, we've had 5 different champions in 5 years. And so this year, with the teams remaining, we will have a 6th different champion in 6 years.
That's great. That's good. I think we were all exhausted of the dominance of Golden State. Be like, well, none of this matters. The regular season doesn't even matter because unless somebody's going to challenge Golden State, who cares? Or unless somebody's going to challenge Cleveland, who cares? Or Miami or Boston, like they're. I like that. I like this. I like that it's anybody, any year. I like that it's not easy to do. I also think it makes the years where you do win back to back that much more impressive. That's what a dynasty should be. It's close to impossible.
It's hard. It's really hard.
All right, couple little tiny stories before we get out of here. Netflix is going to be hosting 2 NFL games on Christmas. I believe Christmas will be a Wednesday, and I think they're still going to do the Thursday game. So we're going to be getting a lot of NFL all week. Netflix doesn't look like they're going to be getting into the bidding war of full-time streaming of any particular sports other than WWE for the moment. But, dip the toe in a little bit. This is nice. I think they've been trying to get a little bit more almost pay-per-view-esque sort of things where they advertise for just a big night of something, and this is kind of falling into that. I hope this works, right? Is that what we're hoping for? Is this a good news or bad news? Do you like this, or do you now feel like you have to find the game and you don't know where it is?
I have Netflix. That's easy to find. I would have preferred, with it, especially being on a Wednesday. Like, you don't traditionally play NFL games on a Wednesday. Let the NBA have that, but that's not how big businesses work. So I can be an adult and understand that it's not the easiest to switch back and forth between, but figure it out. There's a lot of stuff going on Christmas anyway. One thing that you just mentioned, and that I saw with the initial headline, but did not find until I was doing a little more deep diving today, is so they're going to have 2 games this year. They're at least going to have 1 game in 2025 and 1 game in 2026. So that would be interesting if Netflix becomes the NFL destination on Christmas. And like you said, hey, we're looking for premier events. You don't come to us for the regular every Sunday here and there. It's no, once in a while. And, to really have it on Christmas, if they can create the tradition of, okay, no, Netflix, Christmas, football, all wrapped into one, I think that could be interesting.
I think Netflix has won and has controlled a lot of. They control the industry to some degree, where they're the only successful streaming service that isn't backed by some other bankrupt movie making company. Like this is Netflix. They're on their own. They can do these things on their own. Partnering up with a team or a business like the NFL, I mean that's huge money. This is probably a big step for both sides here. So I'll see where this ends up. I'm a little frustrated, like you said, of not being able to hit the jump button back and forth on the Netflix or the whatever other channel I'm supposed to be watching for whatever basketball games will be on that day. But chances we get good games on this, I imagine this could be disaster day. Like this could be a game where nobody competes and that nobody misses this at all. These games could suck before, right? Let's not act like these are always stellar games on these holidays. I mean, who's watching Detroit on Thanksgiving every year? Nobody, all right? It's on in the afternoon.
Everybody.
Nobody watches.
Everybody's watching. Everybody watches football on Thanksgiving. Everybody watches football. That is just right there. And the way you really know that is the way this pie has been divvied up. So now Netflix is in this mix. Let me read off how many streaming services that you will need if you want to watch every single game. You will need CBS, you'll need Fox, you'll need NBC, you'll need ESPN, you'll need ABC, you'll need ESPN Plus, you'll need Peacock, you'll need Prime Video, you'll need Netflix, and you'll need NFL Plus. And I also believe that you'll need Sunday Ticket to get the out-of-market games.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Or you can just get Red Zone.
And that doesn't include Red Zone either. So I could definitely see, if I was a casual football fan, getting kind of frustrated with this of, all right, it was one thing where it was, all right, you need cable, and now this is, to get all of this, it's even more expensive than cable.
There's certain advantages that cable just can't offer, though.
And that's true. Like, if you get Netflix, but that'd be assuming, almost like when you got cable, there'd be the complaint of, I buy cable, it gives me 250 channels, but all I want are really these 3. They are creative, like trying to say, hey, well, you purchase Netflix, you don't have to purchase it for the full year. You can buy it just for that day. Was it $15 a month. I don't know what Netflix costs right now, but then you'd have it for the month, and you would be able to watch other things that are on Netflix. If you kind of planned it out well. But
The portability is the deal breaker for me. That always wins it for me. Is like, all right, well, what if I wanted to watch it anywhere else? It's like, well, I can't bring my cable box with me. I mean, sure, they got
True.
an app, but I can't cast it. I can't just log into Netflix anywhere in just any country. I mean, the cable doesn't work anywhere else. I just think that's an advantage that just you're never going to have. I mean, not to mention I could be watching two things at once. I'm paying for Netflix. I'm watching the Christmas games upstairs. My family's somewhere else downstairs or on another screen or anywhere else in the country. I don't know if we're sharing passwords, but in theory, you probably could. But they're watching something else. You're getting more money out of this, and without commercials. There are perks to it all. It definitely never got cheaper, but I don't think we ever expected anyone to make all the products we're consuming to be cheaper. Like they got to make money. They're going to make money.
It will be interesting to see what the broadcast product is, where we had Amazon Prime the past couple of years, and definitely you're watching it and you kind of forget. It's like that was kind of a odd ad, and it's like, oh right, I'm watching this on Amazon Prime, like through their streaming service. You're getting some more Amazon ads, and Amazon, they're selling stuff constantly. It'll be interesting to see what commercials does Netflix have, as well as even the bigger question of who does the announcing, who's putting the packages together. Do they just almost hire, basically like I'm going to call it like the Fox equivalent, or do they hire their own people? So I'm definitely interested to see how that works out.
That is the challenge for all of these teams, that they just don't have a broadcasting team. They don't have the production to do it all. I mean, let alone the talent. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the 3-4 faces you see on TV. There's a ton of hands behind the scenes doing a whole bunch of stuff. It's part of the reason why I hope inside the NBA with Warner and Turner, who are not going to get the NBA. Sorry to spoil all that. That's going to happen. I don't know when that announcement's happening, but it seems like that's dead in the water, and that show is done. They essentially work for a Turner now that doesn't have the NBA. I don't know. I can't imagine the show staying there. But if they do go somewhere else, I want everyone behind the scenes to go with them. I don't want anything to change about this. I want the guy that does the photo editing, that does it so quick to be transferred to wherever else they go. I want them to still be loose. I don't want anyone to give them any notes at all. I want this show to stay the exact same way it is. It's profitable. It makes money. I hope it gets a new home, and I hope that works out. But this is kind of the new reality of cable not being in charge of everything anymore, is that things like that aren't safe either. Like these shows could go anywhere, and these jobs are going to pop up here and there.
Is there any chance it goes from inside the NBA to inside college basketball, because they still have the tournament?
I don't think the show works the same, and I don't think you're going to get those guys. I mean, think of the amount of college games that are. I guess it's the same, but
they don't watch the NBA games, so what does it matter? It's just them messing around. If you wanted actual, discourse, that's what you listen to podcasts for. That's why you can go onto X. I'm sure there's other in-game things that you could do that you don't even care about, but that's not really what you're there for. You're there for them to be joking with each other, and it's the entertainment. So I really don't think if that there were that them not watching more of the games, I don't think that it would really impact it that much.
I think we're going to be watching a lot less college basketball. I think WNBA eyes are going to be over there. There might be some more women's college. I don't know.
The WNBA is in the summertime, so it doesn't overlap.
Yeah, it's also not on Turner.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, gotcha. I thought. Oh, okay. I hear what you're saying. I thought you meant like people in general, not the TNT guys specifically.
I'm not saying that the tournament is worthless. The tournament's great. I love March Madness. March Madness is great, but I think the regular season of college you might get more eyes on some other stuff than that. The tournament for sure, dominate, awesome, kill it. I love the production they do. I love the crew. It's exhausting, the same commercial ads with the same ones, blah blah blah, same guys every year. But whatever. That's how the business works. Those are the people paying for it.
Yeah.
So
they get to make the calls. Yeah.
I think I'm more the the loser who's just consuming it nonstop. This is my problem. Right? I've chosen to watch this for hours every day. This is my problem. All right. Speaking of problems, there was a golf tournament and an exciting ending. I can't say I watched it. I really tried. I can't get into golf. But there was a story of a a golfer that maybe some people have heard of. He's currently ranked number 1 in the world, and Scotty Scheffler was arrested before the golf tournament on Friday. At the golf tournament, getting into the golf tournament, was arrested on his way in. I don't know another story like this. Does this happen more often? Is this something that, like, is this a big deal or not a big deal? Like, what if this could have gone so wrong in so many other different ways? Are we lucky it didn't? Like, what is this story?
So yeah, it's not. It's kind of all over the place, and it's really more just kind of the way like I came across it. I not huge into golf, but now that we're getting towards the end of basketball and the end of hockey, where there's not really much on during the day. You know, Saturday in December, you got football, basketball, like there's so much. So now I was kind of out and about, and so when I was going to these different places, they just have the golf is on. So I feel like I was following it more, and then Friday afternoon, I had heard Scotty Scheffler got arrested, didn't really know more about it, and then I look, and it sure looked like, wait a minute, he is in first place and then got arrested. So like they're not going to let this guy who was in first place, number 1 in the world, but then it turns out it was I'm not sure how exactly to pronounce his last name, but Xander Schauffele. So for really long last names that both begin with SCHAU, there's a lot of overlap there. So then I find out, okay, no, that's a different guy. Yeah, so they do some more research. So what happened was, a really unfortunate situation is a pedestrian was struck and killed by a shuttle. So they had closed down the road. It's a crime scene, but some of these tee times are earlier in the morning, so the golfers are getting there to get prepared for the day. You go in. I don't know how much practicing goes on before, but you got to warm up. You got to get there, and so there was a ton of traffic. I heard about several golfers. Actually, they couldn't even make it. There was so much traffic, so they're just getting out of their car and walking so they could make it in time. So there was some sort of interaction between Scotty and the police officer. Obviously I wasn't there, but it sure seems like the officer didn't realize who he was talking to. Maybe Scotty at 4:35 in the morning wasn't the nicest of people, and he's like, hey, like, I'm a golfer. I just saw the guy in front of me go this way. I'm going to go this way. And sure seems like the cop was holding onto his car. Scotty, hit the gas, dragged the officer along. So when you do that, well, now you're arrested because now you've assaulted a police officer. So, yeah, he gets arrested. So he's in jail. Of course, he's a famous golfer, so his lawyer's able to get him out in time. So he was able to golf later in the day. He said he was warming up in prison. He was starting to do his golf routine because he's like, well, I might get out of here soon. I got to be ready. So just crazy kind of turn of events. He ended up not playing so well. He's going to have to go back to Kentucky to figure out his legal situation. And Xander actually won right down to the last hole. It was actually pretty exciting watching that yesterday. There were a whole group of guys that were all within 1 or 2 strokes of each other. So it was kind of a good in between. The Knicks game had ended. The Denver game was still a little farther away, and so just a nice something to bridge the gap.
I'm already having withdrawals. There's no basketball on tonight. It's only one game on every day. And if we get a blowout, which is some of these games have just been like, all right, one of them's going to be a blowout.
They're going to be.
And it's just like, I just want to watch close games. I feel like I'm waiting till game 7 to care about the game again. And then that's crazy. There's 7 games I need to watch after all these other games. And I just wish we could see tighter matchups more often. And I know there's runs and the teams go on runs and it's just so much scoring. But I'm hoping for some great games because we've had some really good series. This is not how I thought it would play out at all. I mean, who would have thought? We're getting Boston, Indiana, Dallas. Dallas I didn't even have making the playoffs this year in our early predictions. That's how embarrassed I am by this. That's pre-Gafford trade. That's Lively actually panning out as a pick. That's P.J. Washington trade. It's a different team for sure.
No weird Kyrie thing.
Who would have thought? I mean, we've made it this far. The Boston thing would be fascinating to see if him just playing in Boston brings back just something out of him again, or him being like, I don't know, the juju in this city just makes me crazy. and that just be the complete collapse of Kyrie of being like, oh, do everything but other places he's played. He's dominant everywhere else. But I'm enjoying the playoffs, though. I'm having withdrawals. What are you going to do tonight? Is there something I should know about tonight?
I'm going to play basketball. I just lucked out that it was the day that there's no basketball. But yeah, after today, there's gonna have to find something else.
I've been dabbling in the WNBA.
Maybe there's hockey
really
tonight.
I'm out on hockey. Goddamn Bruins. I'm the worst Bruins fan in the world. I can't tell you anything about it, but I can tell you a team that looks like they're in control of a game and then losing a game feels like a very similar Boston team. Like, are we good or are we not good? I can't tell. I don't know. All right, we'll be back next Tuesday, next Monday. What do we got? Memorial Day next week? Something like that. Make sure you follow us, Little Column A, Little Column B. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Facebook. You can follow us on our Twitter and X account, and you can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
Anything for the people out there.
Go Celtics.
We'll be back.
Little column A, little column B.